This conference will now be recorded.
It's saved in the right folder. I don't know how that artwork got in there when the artwork, when I opened the folder up, the right artwork was there, but what I cut was wrong. It's $9. And it was the time and the aggravation and thinking, or obsessing over what the hell was wrong anyway.
One. I think you can be on two. You can be on two.
I just wondered. And then
You can be on two.
he's a veteran of Vietnam. He was airborne, so he got it. Got captured. Him and his group managed to overpower the guards and get away, but they had to kill all of them. Can you imagine that? And then try to make contact with the U.S. and say, well, yeah, send a helicopter. And they did.
They were lucky.
Oh, I know. But normally, airborne behind the enemy lines, you're there.
Expendable.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we leave.
I knew a guy that saw his paperwork on the
Yeah.
sent him in. Honestly.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes.
Before Thanksgiving?
No, I'm not. I didn't see it. I was busy all day, so I didn't even check Facebook.
Oh, yes, I guess.
Okay. Oh, I will do that. I will do that at the end. Yeah.
I'm dreading that.
I did not see that. Thank you.
You guys didn't count it? Our family's all here, but we usually go
Did he get killed or?
to Joe's family on
Seriously?
before. So this
Oh,
time I'll
But listen, you know, it's still pretty fluid deal.
Sure.
yeah, she's
So-
very close.
So it was.
Buy a $40 turkey yet?
My wife bought it, but it's pretty touchy. So just cents or something like that. He just wanted something made. Just remember the officer or the officer or however you want to put it. We can get real detailed. Sell it on eBay.
But I'm going to say wounded.
I'll
Yes,
smoke it.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'll get some paper.
Yeah. You know what? There's Chief. He may know a little more if he wants to.
Quarter place.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, we're over. November 22nd, council meeting call to order. Would you stand for the pledge of allegiance? Moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda will be approval of the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes in the November the 8th meeting and a statement of bills paid in the amount of $154,716.80.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Would the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stites,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Cahar.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda will be request for comments from the public. There are none. We'll move on to the next item. Consider resolution 2021-21 authorizing the mayor to enter into a first amendment to the sewer system expansion development agreement with Compass Commodity Group 300 LLC and Scanel Properties number 516 LLC.
Mayor Scott Anderson is with us tonight on this item. We'll present. We also have a representative from Scannell with us tonight. If there's questions, we'll try to answer. Let's just put this up for some reference.
Okay. Mayor, council members, Scott Anderson, Development Council. As you know, back in January, the city of Edwardsville approved an agreement with Bonner Springs that provided for the city of Edwardsville serving 157 acre tract of land located in Bonner with service of up to 100,000 gallons per day of sewer capacity. Along those lines, the city of Edwardsville approved a sewer system expansion development agreement with Scannell several months ago. That agreement was intended to implement this Bonner agreement and basically provided for two things. Number one is the Scannell would construct the city, what were known as the city sewer improvements. That's basically the purple line along Village South Parkway. And that Scannell would also construct the private sewer improvements, which is the vertical line. I'm sorry, the vertical line, the green line going up and down. That's the portion of the line that extends it down to the Scannell site. At the time we did this agreement, we bifurcated it between the city sewer improvements and the private sewer improvements because, you know, our attitude was there's no need for the city to take ownership of those private sewer improvements. The plans were since submitted to KDHE, and the developer Scannell desires to subdivide their property. So originally it was going to be Scannell was going to own the entire 157 acres. Now they're going to subdivide it, and they're not going to own all of the property. What that means is there'll be multiple users on the Scannell site. Because there's multiple users, this KDHE requires that the entire system be a public system. That basically means two things. Number one is we have to amend the original agreement to make it all a public system. And number two, we have to alter the easements on the private side. Instead of them being private sewer easements that we're running between private parties, we have to now make them public easements that run in favor of the city of Edwardsville. At the time we did the agreement, a couple things that I think were significant for the city. Number one is there was the desire to get all the easements dedicated to Edwardsville, in particular along Village South. Those easements were dedicated to the city, so we have those, which is great. Number two is there's also a provision in the agreement where Scannell pays the city a $100,000 approval fee once the plans have been approved. My understanding is the city's approved the plans, and we're just waiting for final KDHE approval, at which point that payment will be made to the city. However, as it boils down to, the reason the First Amendment is before you tonight is because of their desire to serve multiple private parties on the Bonner side instead of one private party. Multiple private parties cannot connect to a private sewer line. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Switching it private to public, who would be responsible, or would that stay the same should something happen to that area of sewer line? Like, would it be our liability, or would that be on the developer to make any repairs?
It's a public. It will be a public system. It'd be a city of Edwardsville.
So if something happens in that section, then it's our bill to pay.
That is correct.
With it being private before, we had no control over the connection to it. Is that accurate? So they could have purchased properties around it and connected to it, the private section?
Well, the agreement really addressed the 157 acres, so they could have had multiple connections without any fees associated with those. I don't know that they could have gone to other properties outside of there in Bonner Springs because it was only for that particular site. So I don't believe they could have gone to other properties. That's somewhat of a legal question. Now, the one change that will happen here is because those sewer lines are public, each of the connections, they will have to pay the standard connection fees. And that's dependent upon size of meters, size of water meters determines the sewer connection.
That would be paid to the city instead of a private owner.
Correct. Those are requirement to pay the city in addition to what's there, the $100,000 fee. And then they'll have to pay sewer rates that will set, the sewer rates that are set for that project basically, which typically outside the city sewer rates, which is what it is 1.5 times our normal rate. And that's pretty standard across the board. I mean, that's generally what cities charge, of what Bonner Springs charges for outside the city, or unified government, or any number of other cities. So in line with the same policies.
And our $100,000 max would remain in place no matter how many private companies were on that Bonner property. Is that correct?
That is correct. Under the original agreement, there were two main requirements. Number one is it could only service that 157 acres. And number two, the output could not exceed the 100,000 limit. Neither of those are changing with this First Amendment. We're still only agreeing to serve the 157 acres, and the cumulative outflow from those 157 acres cannot exceed the 100,000 daily limit. And Michael did bring up a good point that while the city, yes, is in charge for maintenance, we will receive those additional connection fees, however additional many connections there are, because it's a public system. May or may not offset some of that.
It seems like, since it's like just city of Edwardsville's perspective, the people that live here, the ones that I've talked to in their perspective, it seems like it would benefit us more to have less users, less truck traffic, less people on that property. So how would is this advantageous to our city at all, or is it only benefiting the Bonner development for us to make the adjustment?
As far as I won't really speak to public benefits. That's not really my forte, but I would say that I think there was a couple reasons that we considered this agreement initially. Number one is it did give us the easement rights, which we wanted. We did receive those. We do have that 100,000 connection fee, and a big part of it was the agreement that dated back from January, the agreement with Bonner, where we said we'd serve that property, and but that's legally, I think the benefits, Michael might want to speak to more.
Well, I'm not sure about part of the question. I mean, as far as sewer flow.
No, not sewer flow
okay,
at all.
okay.
That's not what I'm talking about at all. Since last January, I've had a lot of feedback within our community that has been 100% negative on the impact this will have on our city. As far as the entrance of our city our plan was never for it to be industrial, never to have warehouses up there, truck traffic on our new street that we haven't even driven on yet. I mean, the neighbors that live up there, turning that into their neighborhood into industrial, which I don't think ever would have happened within Bonner Springs. Instead, it's on our city line. So the feedback that I've received from our community is just, why in the world would we even do this in the first place? And so and I know why we've got the $100,000 and everything, but now since we're looking at making adjustment, I think it might be a good time to look into, is there anything that would be beneficial, because this benefits them in going from 1 user to 3. Before we would sign off on it, I think it might be a good idea to come to the table and say, how can we do something that also benefits the people of Edwardsville from adjusting an agreement?
That would be an issue that would have to be agreed upon by the whole council before we would set this aside.
I'm comfortable with that.
I don't have really an answer to that. I mean, I don't know that we anticipated, as far as number of users, that it would be, again, the land is in Bonner Springs. It was rezoned. At least their plat that they had presented had, I think, 3 or 4 buildings on it and about 1.2 million square feet of total space on there. Of course, the first project is what's known as Medline, which is public, publicly known. I think it's about 800,000. Is that correct? Right. So I mean, I think we anticipate that there'll be more than one building on the site as far as that goes. Now, the sewer limitation still stays in place. So that was, one of the concerns, as I recall, was, well, we don't want to just, open the door on sewer flow. Of course, having sewer flow is valuable. I mean, in the sense that it generates revenues. There's cost, right, like with any business, but it also generates revenue for lines that are sitting roughly empty at the moment, and you want to generate those revenues. So, but as far as connections, I don't know.
So the pump station,
Yes.
would that also become public?
Yes. So the concern that KDHE has is, and I'm going to make these very generic. So typically, KDHE doesn't like force mains and pump stations, period. I mean, and generally I would agree, right? You want things gravity.
Which I think goes back to why we should have went down Betts Creek to
Right.
begin with.
But we know that we know that those have to happen. I mean, topography, et cetera. So, but what they want to make sure is that they have a responsible party, which they prefer it to be a public party when you're running lift station. If it's a grinder pump to one building into it, then it's pretty clear that the building owner is the responsible party. But in this case, now we will have different owners and therefore different users. And that's where KDHE says we want, a public party to be responsible. Or so, it could be a sewer district. I mean, somebody to be the responsible party of the system.
I think the thing that's concerning to me is that, I mean, we're way pregnant in this thing. To come back with a change like this is pretty significant. That now we as a city are taking on and bearing all the costs of the lift station, the pump station, anything that goes wrong on a sewer system that's not in our city, that we are not, Edwardsville is not receiving any benefit for making this change at all.
There are 4 properties adjoining the green. Under a private ownership, would Edwardsville have any revenue from those 4 properties connecting to that? Or would we have any control over the input put into those 4 properties?
Well, in the original agreement, we specifically stated that it was private and that we would not, and they agreed not to permit any connections to the force main.
So that would be the green section.
That would be the green section. If it's public, we could. Now, generally, we would not want connections to a force main. We would want it to be go to the gravity system, which would be the purple line up there.
My question is, and I don't know whether this could be answered by you, Mike, or Scott, and that is, should the outcome of this conversation be somewhat detrimental to the development, would that violate our original agreement?
I would prefer that to legal, I think.
A couple things. Number one, I'll address a prior point real quick. We could, one option we could look at would be requiring some type of indemnification from a private developer if there should be future damage. With respect to, there's 2 agreements in place. Number one is the agreement with Bonner, and number 2 is the current agreement with Skinnell. The short answer is the agreement with Skinnell, there's no legal obligation to amend it. I mean, the agreement's in place, you're abiding by the agreement, you're living per its terms. The agreement with Bonner, I was not involved in the drafting of that agreement. I've skimmed it, but I wasn't involved with it, so I'm not sure exactly what the city's rationale at the time for doing it was. And I certainly can't speak off the top of my head to what, if any, legal ramifications might be involved if not with not going through with this. You do have to assume that, and here again, I don't like to talk a lot of legal strategy in a public, in an open session, but you know, I think this would have ramifications for the developer. You probably have a developer that would be looking at, you know, trying to save themselves one way or another. What that means, does that mean they have a claim? I can't say.
Well, because we're not changing the agreement. They are requesting that, correct?
The request is being made. Yes, the request is coming from the developer. That's correct.
Okay.
Because of the KDE requirement.
Correct.
Can I make a motion to just table it and look into it further? Maybe find an agreement that would be more mutually advantageous to both cities? Is that, Mike, is that
You
something?
certainly, I mean, that's certainly an option. I might just suggest if there are either now or, you know, if there's direction for staff and legal, you know, if there are specific issues, I mean, I think we've heard what's said, but I mean, if there's specific things to focus on, what, you know, what are those? I guess that'd be the thing, such as Scott said about indemnification. You know, what if there's a, you know, is there some kind of a warranty period? Now, I'll tell you, the work itself, we require a 2-year maintenance bond, and that's already in the agreement for all the work anyway. So any public improvements, whether it's the lift station, the force mains, the gravities, we'll have a 2-year maintenance bond, basically. So if something were to occur in that 2-year period, that is covered under a bond already, which was part of the agreement, which is typical when we do any type of public improvement that's done by a private development. Same as we did, so to speak, on the other side of the road with the sewer and the roads. Those all had 2-year maintenance bonds.
But that would be
attached
our
to it.
debt, should we take it on if something would happen, correct? Not the developers or anyone else's.
If it went to public, if there was some failure in the system, right? Pumps go down, force main breaks, whatever that might be, it would be part of the public system, and it would be our responsibility as the permitting agency to, you know, as the agency of record of the system to repair it. Can't allow raw sewage just to run out. Right? So yes, we would be responsible.
Has Canal bought the right of way? Do they own the right of way for that green section?
Right now, there is a private easement running from the owner of that property to Scanell. I know there's a private
Yes.
easement covering that green property right now. I can't exactly remember who it's from, but that would be an easement where we would convert to a public easement. So it'd run in favor of the city of Edwardsville. But there is an easement right there, a private easement for the sewer right now.
Okay, and that's been purchased already by Scanell? They own,
I know
That right of
Scanell
way?
obtained that private easement. I can't tell you what, if anything, they paid for it. I presume they paid something.
I would assume with it becoming public, all the right of ways would be given to the city at no charge.
Yes, absolutely.
So just so you're taking this map over here, so everything that says Village South Parkway future, the street right of way which goes onto that other parcel, all of that has been obtained and filed, as well as the purple area, which is a sanitary sewer easement. So all of that has been dedicated to the city. So right of way we own, right? So we have title to easements, right? It stays with the property owner, but gives you rights. In this case, sewer is the right. So we have a right to build a sewer line in that purple area at any time we choose to, if we chose to build in that area. Of course, our agreement with the developers has been, you're going to build all of this at your expense, and then dedicate those portions that have to be dedicated to the city, at which point we would have assumed all the maintenance requirements for basically what you see in the purple area.
But in that purple, that's
Right.
just the gravity flow.
That is
system.
gravity. That is
There's
correct.
not going to be anything that's on a gravity flow system.
Right.
Unlike a pump station or force main. I just don't see the benefit to Edwardsville.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we table it until, and come back to the table trying to find a mutually beneficial agreement.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to table the item of sewer agreement.
I assume table that to the next meeting. It doesn't have to be, I
I
mean,
don't know if we'd have time.
Mike, I'm going to, before you go any further, you mentioned that something has to be stated in this. Specifically, what do we want you to do?
well, I don't know, it
Or
has
stop.
to be. I ask if there are things, but that can be stated later too. I mean,
Okay,
the motion is the motion to table this item. And we don't have to do it, I don't believe, to a specific date, but if, I mean, we would assume to come back as early as possible, assuming we have a
Okay.
resolution. So
All right.
I didn't know if you wanted it specifically
Let's not
to a
include the
date.
date yet to
Okay.
give you time in case you need more time, so it's
Fine.
not on there for no reason.
Just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
okay, would the clerk please call roll?
Malott,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stites.
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Cahart.
Yes.
Okay, next item is to consider a motion to go into recess for executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for consultation with legal counsel for matters which would be deemed privileged and attorney-client relationships related to housing development in the city of Edwardsville.
How much time will we need?
Well, yes. 30 minutes.
So moved, returning at 7 o'clock.
I've got to go get keys, so I won't meet you over.
Is Scott going to be in that meeting?
Yes, he will be.
Okay. All right, there's been motion and a second to go into executive session. Would the clerk please call roll, return at 7 o'clock?
Malott,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stites,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Cahart.
Yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Session, would the clerk please call roll?
Garrett.
Garrett,
I got this.
second.
Malott,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stites,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Cahart.
Yes.
Next item is a biggie. Consider cancellation December the 27th, 2021 city council meeting.
Make a motion, we cancel the December 27th, 2021 council meeting.
Second.
Been moved and second that we cancel December 27th, 2021 city council meeting. Would the clerk please call roll?
Shriver, or excuse me, Malott,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stites,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Cahart.
Yes.
Mike, any additions to your report?
No additions to my report. Happy to answer any questions if there are.
Zach, you have anything to add? Okay, thank you.
Well, let me do one.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you get to enjoy time with your family, friends, and others.
Councilman Adams, you're starting off.
Okay. 102nd is a nice improvement over my shock absorbers don't know what to do with that road up there. There is some material that was kind of mounted up on the side all along. Are they going to come back and smooth that out? I'm-
The contractor's not.
Okay. I think we should communicate with the landowners up there, because if I was a landowner and saw that there, I'd be pretty irritated. And so at least I'll let them know we have a plan for it and maybe what that plan might entail. And we probably ought to do it pretty shortly, because I know if I was one up there, I'd be pretty annoyed at this point in time.
And I don't mean to jump in on your time to talk, but so why is it not the developer or the
Yeah.
contractor's responsibility to take care of it?
They
Why
put
are
it there.
Why are we left holding the bag? I got flagged down on 102nd Street one day and they said, hey, what about this stuff?
I mean,
I
if
say
it's
stuff.
if it's stuff that they had created,
Yeah.
then we would, but it wasn't really stuff they created, that was just spoiled off the side of it. And I'm meeting with the contractor tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it should be their responsibility. They made it. Wasn't there before they did their
didn't
job.
really make it part of the construction process, but there's bigger ditch cleaning process that's gonna go along with this to now tie in those edges, and that wasn't part of the contract.
I'm a little bit confused because it wasn't there prior to the asphalt going down and it's there now.
Yeah.
So who created it?
Well, there's a foot wide of asphalt on both sides too.
Okay.
That's part of it. But there's no ditch cleaning.
The berm that is on the side of the road, who put it there?
It was done when the base stabilization was done. There was material left there, but there was no grading involved to pull that to the side of the road. That was my plan.
It sounds like you got a plan to take care of it.
Yeah. And that,
Sorry if there was confusion there.
no, it just needs to be communicated well. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's all I have.
Carolyn?
Zach, could you just give us a quick reminder about everything going on December 11th for Edwardsville?
Yeah, so December 11th will be our kind of big holiday day. We're going to start the day with a pancake feed over at the community center. And I think right now we're planning on an in-person event. You could drive up, pick it up if you want to. I'm not sure on the times on that, but I know Mike Martin has sent out an email with some of those. So I'll send that out to the council again tomorrow as a reminder. Later that evening, we will do our Ho-Ho Express. And that's the neighborhood parade, similar to the Spooky Express with a slightly different route and then no candy stops. We'll hit pretty much all the neighborhoods in town. That'll set off from here at about 5:30 and then conclude back here at around 6:30, a little bit before, where we'll do the mayor's tree lighting ceremony, which we're kind of reformatting. We're going to have the tree actually in the vacant north area of the city hall. So it can actually, when you're coming into the downtown area, you can actually see it when you're driving up. And we're also looking into getting, so we'll have our main tree, like our big 9-foot or whatever it is on the platform. And then we're looking into getting a couple of smaller trees. So say 8 to 12 that will reach out to businesses and they can, essentially pay for the tree and you can come out, we'll get you a sign for it that this tree is sponsored by business XYZ and they can come out and decorate it and things like that. So the idea is that kind of have like a little Christmas tree forest type thing. We'll have Edwardsville Elementary perform, or their choir is going to perform at the tree lighting ceremony. And then after the tree lighting ceremony, we'll all relocate over to the community center for the kind of evening with Santa. Fire department has got some treats to hand out. We'll also have some our partners over at Stantec, who's been helping out with the Riverfront redevelopment project, are going to have some of their renderings of some of their preliminary concepts that they've presented to the CPPS board, and they're all really excited about it. We just want to get some public feedback on that, just on how that's coming together. And of course, we'll have cocoa and crafts and all that. So it should be a great day.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to mention we have medals up here. It looks like the Edwardsville Fire Department just had a big anniversary. So congratulations on 50 years. That's a pretty big deal. And that's all I've got for tonight.
Garrett?
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That's all I've got.
Margaret?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Chuck?
Well, happy Thanksgiving, but I'm not finished.
Oh, I
Can we
wasn't
get-
hurrying
Can
you.
we get an update on 110th Street? Yes, that's right. Could we get an update on 110th Street, the opening? I know we are all getting fielding questions regarding the opening of it and what that looks like as we move forward. We've talked about November and then, different timeframes. And so we'd like to get some clarity on when that's going to get opened up.
Yeah, and I'll let Dusty kind of has the update, but remember that when the project was originally let, I believe it had a substantial completion by, I think, November 30 and a final completion by December. So just, I know people see pavement and everything going down, but that was, I think, in the original contract for timing.
When you said November 30 and then final completion in December, do you know what, because after November 30, one day later is December. So, you know what I'm saying? So what did, end of year,
Once there's
right?
a substantial completion, then there's generally about a 30 days that so KDOT goes through and says, you got to fix these things, and they have 30 days. Now, we knew because it was a winter project that there were some things that would be in spring.
Absolutely.
Final seeding,
Yep.
some final, probably hand grading kind of work, right? But substantial completion basically means the road, the project should be usable for the public. That's generally what it is. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think the priority was on that, obviously, was open to traffic by that November deadline. And then that would include their major concrete work also, though, with that, but then open to traffic, and then final grading, final seeding would be completed in the spring. Right now, there's striping today. They should be done striping in the next day or two. There's some sidewalks left to finish that they want to finish before opening. And then there's temporary seeding that will go down here in the next week or two. So mid-December right now is the deadline that we're shooting for. Definitely by the end of the year, we're open.
Our concern before, and again, KDOT projects or some of the, was there was a challenge, and I think we talked about this, between paving. And so the paving contractor, subcontractor, King Construction, wanted the concrete stuff out of the way because they didn't want the pavement surfaces to be damaged in any way while other work was going on. So people were, taking equipment off them. The concrete people were behind relative to where they should have been. So the paving contractor said, we're going to go ahead and put the final paving down. They did. Then there was some question, and it was really a temperature question. Were we able to get the markings down?
Right.
And meet all those things? And KDOT said, well, we can't open the road without markings. But what I'm understanding and hearing is the markings will all be complete. They would like to, the contractor would like to have all the rest of the project, which is mainly sidewalks, sidewalk trail, the median pieces done. And pretty much, I think for major stuff, that's what's left out there, unless I'm missing something.
No, that's it. There's some grading, then some of the 10-foot trail to finish up.
Right.
And then some of the island concrete, but it's pretty substantially complete. Really, we knew it was going to be pushed back because of the utilities that we had trouble with. But then we didn't know that we didn't know what was going to happen for sure on the striping and the final surface, but that's where we're at now. It'll be open by the end of the year.
We hope to have an early Christmas present for the public to be able to drive on that road. Now, I will say it is, not knowing all the timing, of course, that Riverview to the west, right, which is Bonner Springs, so they have a separate project to rebuild that section or a portion of that road. So it will probably keep Riverview West in Bonner Springs. It may reopen and then reclose. I don't know what that plan is, or if they want to just keep their section closed. Obviously, we still have to have access for people, but closed to local traffic. So.
Okay. 9711 Steel.
I'm gonna have to follow back up with the demo contractor. They were gonna be out there. They talked to BPU about getting the water cut off and moving forward, so I didn't.
And what was the time frame that was on that they were to start and finish
They were for 30 days, so
And
they
the-
passed that.
of the start date and the finish date?
30 days from start to finish. I mean, they have a 30-day window from start.
And we didn't have a start date or?
We did, I just don't know what it is. I mean, yeah, we had a notice to proceed.
Mhm.
And we held it until they finished, if I recall right, they needed to go ahead and get the KDHE approval for no asbestos certification or whatever they had to do. And then they were to move forward. The holdup then they ran into was water as far as getting at disconnected. But they have everything they need. I don't know if they haven't done it or they've done it and they just haven't gotten to the house. But I will follow up and let you all know. I don't know for sure.
And I know that during this period, I'm just really curious, and I'm saying it for the public and for everybody else. Has that owner of that property reached out to us since the time that we've requested for any sort of contact on the property?
I've had no further contact with
Okay.
him unless, I don't believe Zach has had anything. We've had no contact. Since the time we told him that he needed to either move forward with, his time was running out and he
Mhm.
didn't need forward with demo or with, bringing the permit in to do something. And I informed him at that time that, if we didn't have we were moving forward with demolition. If he came in before that time, great, but otherwise we were moving forward.
Well, I just remember that during that conversation that we were having those conversations, that he was meeting with a engineer or contractor or somebody that next week and was going to get back with us. So I was just wondering if that had
He
ever,
followed up after,
material.
we followed up with him after that, but I don't believe an architect was ever on site.
yeah, I just didn't know if there was any more follow-up on it. So
Been none.
I appreciate it. The Ho Ho Express, I'm looking forward to it. I know that the Spooky Express was fun. I had a good time with that and it went really well. One of the suggestions I remember when we stopped there at the entrance to Williamson Farms was at the end to have more of a like a place to maybe get something to eat more than just cocoa and cookies or whatever. Is there a possibility of us reaching out to a food truck and see if they would be available? Because that's at that time is the time that people would, dinner time, people, there's a good possibility that people would just hang around there and have tacos, or I'm not advocating for a taco truck. I'm just advocating for a truck.
Yeah, we can look into it. I know Outfield has had food trucks out in the past, and we've had some out over at Autumn Fest, so we certainly have some connections that
I'm
we should
not
put
so
together.
sure that
I think it's a good idea.
the part, somebody may want to do barbecue, or barbecue hamburgers or hot dogs out there and then sell them for the fundraiser or something.
Yeah.
There's quite a few opportunities there for somebody to potentially make a few dollars for a good cause.
Yeah,
So
we'll look into it.
happy
Sure.
Thanksgiving. I don't know if I already said that or not, but that's all I got.
I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. With a side note, I was informed that and we need to keep our thoughts and prayers for a Kansas police officer that was wounded in the line of duty today. And so with that, I have nothing further to add. We are adjourned.
I don't think so.